At this point in his career, every baseball fan is familiar with the name Trea Turner. He has won the World Series, he has helped lead his team to the WBC Championship, he's a two-time All-Star, he's a one-time Silver Slugger, he is a known speed demon with 3 cycles tying the all-time MLB record, but none of that matters at this moment. He is getting paid $300 million to currently be in the worst slump of his career, leaving everyone confused and asking what happened to Trea Turner. Welcome back to Stark Raving Sports. My name is IcyVert. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe as it shows us what you guys like to watch and helps us create more content down the line. If you were to make a list of the top 20 or so MLB players over the last 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised to see Trea Turner somewhere on that list. And I mean, who could blame you? Over the past 5 years, Trea Turner has been a Silver Slugger, he's been on the MLB first and second team, he's won a World Series, and he's gotten contracts from the Phillies and the Dodgers for millions and millions of dollars. But if you were to make a list this season of your top 20 MLB players, I wouldn't be surprised if Trea Turner didn't even crack the top 100. As the 2023 season for Trea Turner has been nothing short of a nightmare, as Trea Turner has been paid $300 million by the Philadelphia Phillies coming into this season to be one of their best players alongside players like Bryce Harper, Zach Wheeler, and JT Realmuto. But instead of that, Trea Turner has been along the likes of a AAA player for most of the games this season. But the craziest thing about these struggles is no one knows exactly what has happened and where they came from. As just before the season, Trea Turner took part in the WBC tournament and he was coined by some Philly fans Captain America instead of calling Mike Trout Captain America. And this makes perfect sense. In just 6 games, Trea Turner recorded 5 home runs, he scored 6 times, he had 9 hits, 11 RBIs, batted .391, had a .440 on base percentage, and 1.043 slugging, as well as a 1.483 OPS. And oh, let's not forget, Trea Turner had a grand slam in one of the biggest moments of the entire tournament to ultimately send Team USA to the championship against Team Japan. And if you're a fellow Phillies fan like I am, you probably saw this and you think to yourself, wow, Trea Turner has now just joined a team that made it to the World Series. We may never lose again and go 162-0, because that's what I thought. And I was surprised after the first game of the season, but we don't have to talk about that. For the most part, Trea Turner started out as advertised. He started out as a good contact hitter with elite speed. He started in the first 19 games of the season with a .444 slugging and an .819 OPS to go along with it. And if you remember those stats I just listed off about the WBC, to compare those 5 WBC games to his first 19 games as a Philly, Trea had 1 home run as a Philly and just 6 RBIs, which would give him 4 less home runs and 5 less RBIs in 15 more games as a Philly than he did in the WBC. At first, this wasn't a concern because his WBC stats are so absurd for the most part that the pedestrian stats that he had to start the season didn't throw up any red flag. But as the season got past April, into May, and deeper into the summer, the issues that Trea Turner had become so apparent that he started chasing pitches just as much as he started chasing answers to his problems. His powers were seemingly gone, as if they were zapped and taken from him by the Monstars. And this is the little director's note that I'm thinking about when I go to add clips in. I wouldn't be surprised if I just put up every single strikeout and every single bad at bat that Trea has had this year, because he has been so frustrating to watch that I hope you guys watching it all that aren't fully familiar with the situation get frustrated as I am. To continue to talk about the downward slope of the season that Trea Turner has had, I will talk about the 48th game of the season, which was an extremely monumental game for Trea Turner, as on the 48th game of the season, he finally hit his 5th home run, tying his WBC home run total. This 48th game was also the game where he finally surpassed his RBI total from the WBC as well, going from 11 to 13. And the frustrations for everybody would continue to rise, whether it was Trea Turner himself or the fans watching at home. Everybody wanted to find an answer, but the answer was seemingly never going to be found this season. People would call into Philadelphia talk shows to say, I think Trea's going to turn it around this week, is what they would say every single week, because he had to. right? He's getting paid $300 million to be the worst player on the team, and at one point, he got moved all the way down to the 8-hole and was the most expensive 8-hole in the league. The frustration finally reached a boiling point as Trea Turner, who was obviously struggling majorly on the offensive side of the ball, was starting to struggle immensely on defense as well. As his bat started to slow even more and his defensive woes got even higher, the frustration was so loud that on July 25th versus the Orioles, Trea would wind up having 2 errors at shortstop within the first 5 innings, and then in the bottom of the 5th inning, he would argue a ball and strike call and get ejected from the game, further proving to himself and to the city that his head is so far gone from where it should be that something has got to give and fast. But the next most apparent frustration moment for Trea Turner in the field was against the Marlins in a 1-score 7-8 game in the bottom of the 11th inning, where the Marlins were down to their last strike of the game and Josh Bell hits a hard ground ball up the middle towards Trea Turner. He puts his glove in front of it and it shoots right past, allowing the Marlins to tie the game and ultimately win the game in the 12th. And that moment is where things started to change.
Obviously, I'm the reason why we lost that game, so just, frustrated, but I only know one thing, and that's just keep working, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Who hurt you?
There became a shift in the city of Philadelphia, and in Trea Turner's head, everyone knew we had to come together and get something done. That night, Trea Turner went into the Lone Depot indoor batting cage and hit for the next 2 hours until 12 midnight to try and figure out what the hell is wrong with him. In fact, Trea was in the batting cage so long after the game that Phillies manager Rob Thompson actually has been on record saying, "I didn't know if I should tell him to leave or not because he wants people to work on their game, but at some point he might have to go home and get some rest." At this point in the season, it felt like there was no coming back from this. Trea was batting .235 on the year and seemingly was never going to turn it around at this point. And for Phillies fans, they were arguing that they have now wasted $300 million on a guy that will be here for the next 10 years. While the noise in the city and national media became louder and louder, the support in the clubhouse never wavered. Every single one of the coaches, staff, and teammates had full belief that Trea Turner was going to bounce back. Nick Castellanos, who also signed a big deal with the Phillies last year and struggled in his first season, even said that it's a mind game. You get paid all this money and you don't know what to truly do with yourself exactly. And Nick said that he believes what he went through, Trea is going through as well, and that give it some time, he will be back. And sure, Trea was expanding his zone, his bat didn't look as quick, but there was not one glaring issue that came to mind when talking about what has happened to him. If it's not truly anything wrong with Trea Turner's baseball skills, then what has it been? Well, it sounds like it was all mental the whole time. Trea has been stuck inside of his own head, he's been fighting his own demons, and he's not been winning at all. In fact, Trea knows he's been bad. He would blame losses, especially the one against Miami, on himself. And after seeing how defeated Trea looked in most post-game pressers, the fans came together and did something unthinkable. Philadelphia radio host and personality Jack Fritz decided to make a tweet saying, "Hey, let's give Trea Turner a standing O on Friday against the Kansas City Royals because we're stuck with him the next 10 years and we want to show him some love and try to help him get out of the slump." And how dare someone from Philadelphia say, "Let's show this guy love," instead of throwing batteries and snowballs at him? I mean, how dare he do that? But Jack did it anyway, and whether he thought it would gain traction or not, it gained so much traction that Friday night, Trea Turner, when he came up to the plate for the first time, received a standing ovation as if he had just hit a Game 7 walk-off home run. Not one person in the crowd was in their seat. Everyone was standing up, showing Trea Turner some love and just letting him know that, hey, we got your back. And the love that was poured out by the city was felt almost immediately by Trea Turner. He genuinely had one of his best game in weeks, but in the post-game presser, Trea said that the hit he got felt like one of his best swings all year, as he was able to drive a fastball into the field for a hit rather than driving the fastball foul like he had done so many times this year. And I say this with an extremely biased view on the situation. The standing ovation was one of the coolest things to witness, mostly because the love that Philadelphia gave Trea Turner, he then evidently gave it back, saying thank you through billboards and on Instagram. And the feel-good story doesn't end there, as in the 18 games since Trea Turner got a standing ovation, he is batting a .343 batting average, has an OPS over 1,000, and in those 18 games he has 25 hits, 5 home runs, and 15 RBIs, almost as if Trea Turner is rushing back to be his old self. But I say that with caution because I know as soon as this video gets uploaded, with my luck, Trea Turner may never hit the baseball again. But I also hope that Trea Turner continues on this path of success, and hopefully we can all look back and say the standing ovation somehow changed a man's season, all by just showing him some love. This love is obviously seen and felt even just looking at Trea Turner while watching a game. You can just tell he seems happier, he seems more relaxed, and most importantly, he seems out of his own head and is just playing the game of baseball, a game he's played since he was a kid. My opinion is I really think this has saved Trea Turner, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good one.